Bob, it's so nice to have you here with us on Turner Classic Movies tonight.
Thank you. Thank you.
We just showed your terrific documentary, Naked Illusion, all about your life and career, which talks about some of the great films that you provided costumes for. And now we're going to actually show one of those movies, one of your 3 Oscar nominations, Pennies from Heaven. It's from 1981. We should tell people Steve Martin, Bernadette Peters, Christopher Walken, directed by Herbert Ross,
Yes,
who you had a
Herbert
history
Ross.
with.
Herbert Ross I've worked with before.
You did the Fred Astaire show with him, and
You're
Funny
right.
Lady, you guys had done
We
together.
did Funny Lady together. He directed that. And he was fun to work with because he had a lot of ideas. You know, he'd been an old Broadway boy, and he had a lot of good ideas.
Yeah.
And I love good ideas. I mean, it was really quite an interesting piece of work. But it was not the MGM musical making a return.
But that's how they were trying to sell it,
They were
right?
selling it that way, yes. I mean, there were things that are so twisted and kind of strange in it.
Yeah.
But fun.
But that's
to
what I like
watch.
about it.
Well, a lot of people do. I mean, it's a lot of people's favorite film.
Yeah.
You know, it's like doing 2 movies. It's like doing a real depression movie with everybody's poor and everybody's sad and depressed. And then in their brains, this hot music from the 30s comes on, and we never use the real voices singing of the actors in the film. It's just kind of amazing when other voices come on, and Bernadette Peters is singing some hot song from the early 30s.
Yeah.
And her hair bleached out blonder and blonder, and it's quite interesting.
You had already won 4 Emmys, so your TV work was well acclaimed. You had already gotten Oscar nominations for Lady Sings the Blues and Funny Lady. How important was film work to you while you were also doing things like the Carol Burnett show?
Well, I loved the whole thing to start with. As a small child, at 5 years old, I went to see Meet Me in St. Louis. And to me, that was my favorite movie at that point in time. I was born in Los Angeles, and we didn't have snowmen. I just loved it. And then I drove my mother crazy all the way home on the streetcar from downtown LA, where they played all the first run films, asking her questions about, well, why did the ladies wear long dresses? And they had a big dog that lived in the house, and the grandfather lived there. And who was that funny lady that was the maid?
All right.
Which is, you know,
So movies were an early love for you.
I went to see movies my whole life in school. That was what I did. My mother loved that. And she would take me to see them. And if she thought it was too adult, we wouldn't go to that one. But basically, she was pretty good about it. She knew that I'd get it.
Yeah. Now, as I'm looking at you with this beautiful jacket on, I'm kind of reminded of the really great plaid suits that Steve Martin and the other 2 guys wear.
The guys were wearing, they did a big tap
It's a girl,
vaudeville number.
yeah.
In their brains, they kept reverting back to what they would like to be doing, be in vaudeville or to be on stage or in a film and be real performers. And they weren't at all. They were just poor, poor people.
Well, that's one of the challenges for you doing the costumes for this, because you had to make drab Depression-era clothes look interesting.
I had all those poor children in the schools. And we found actual 1930s children's dresses and outfits. Somebody had a collection of them, and we rented them all. And these children all looked like they came right off those old photographs of your grandmother in school. The movie was like that. I loved doing it. And it was like really designing 2 films at one time.
I'm sure. I also read that you had to actually design some of the undergarments because you couldn't find Depression era.
That's true, yes. And, you know, you get out the old catalogs from Sears and Roebuck or wherever, and you just look at what that they could order, you know.
One of my favorite parts of the documentary that we showed earlier tonight was when Carol Burnett just can't believe that you didn't win the Oscar for designing these Pennies from Heaven costumes that Chariots of Fire won instead.
Yeah. Oh, they had a number on them.
Yeah.
What was that? You know, she was just amazing. I adore her. I mean, Carol Burnett, and working for her for 11 years was like a gift from God for me.
By the way.
I got to do exactly what I wanted to do my whole life.
Well, by the way, she's right. You should have won. Well, let's take a look at these amazing costumes. Then I'll ask you more about them after. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Here it is from 1981 with costumes by Bob Mackie, Steve Martin, Bernadette Peters, and Christopher Walken in Pennies from Heaven. So glad to be back with you, Bob Mackie, to ask you more about Pennies from Heaven. And let's talk about that number near the end where all those ladies have the pennies on their head, because that was a replacement number?
That was a replacement number.
What happened?
They called me on a Friday, and they said, we have 60-some girls coming in tomorrow. We've cut that last tap ballet, which was all tap dancing and crazy, and they had painted the entire Chicago set with the L above in bright, horrible fire engine red. The place was like on fire, and everybody was sort of evil people doing the big tap number. I was dying to do it.
And you had finished the costumes
I
for
had
it.
designed all the costumes, and a lot of them were finished already, and some of them were in the middle of being made, and it was cut. And they just said, well, somebody from MGM watched what we had done so far, and they thought this was going to be the return of the MGM musical, and it wasn't. And so they all got kind of nervous.
Oh, no.
And Herbert just choreographed a whole new number with 60-some women in it. Every dancer that wasn't working in Hollywood was in that number. And they had pennies on their heads and kind of copper-colored costumes and doing a big sort of Busby Berkeley-like number, but it wasn't that at all, actually. It wasn't what we wanted.
Were you worried that you simply wouldn't get it all done in time, or how did it all work?
Everybody worked overtime that weekend and took stuff home and worked on it and worked on it. It was fun to watch them do it, but at the same time, I was so sad that we didn't get to do that really nasty, mean-spirited tap dance number.
Yeah. What about that great Follow the Fleet homage where basically Steve and Bernadette are Fred and Ginger? For you, growing up loving those movie musicals, it must have been fun to do something that was paying direct respect to them.
Oh, it was so much fun. Bernadette was there dressed exactly like Ginger Rogers in one of those films. And the dress was gold, and it had real, honest-to-God fox, which we're not allowed to do anymore. And it was really quite amazing. And she looked so perfect and so beautiful. And it was there in the film. And I'm thinking, oh, God, I wish I'd known what color that dress had really been back in the old days when they actually shot the thing, which was in black and white.
Of course.
And from a little voice from the back of the room, she says, it was light blue. It was one of my sewing ladies who was like in her teens, had been working at this embroidery place. And she worked on that dress. And she never told me that. She says, well, I'm here just to fix anything if it falls apart. And I went, ugh, what am I supposed to do now?
Right.
But in reality, the gold looked pretty good.
Right, but you got to solve the mystery and find out what color actually was.
I did, and I wanted to know.
That's great. Well, Bob, it's been fascinating and so much fun to have you here all night, so thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
See you soon, I'm sure. All right, stick around, because coming up next, I'm turning it over to Eddie Muller for Noir Alley. He's got a noir classic from 1953. Don't go anywhere.
Next on TCM, Vice Squad. Then 2-Minute Warning. And later, the Omega Man. TCM's got an alpha mindset tonight.